Hello and welcome to part 0 of this tutorial series. I'm going to be going over a few things that don't necessarily relate to code creation, but are some things you might want to know ahead of time. So firstly, I'm going to start with a demo. So let me show you what you're going to get at the end of this tutorial series. I'm going to start with play, then I'm just going to hit host game and have my friend join through Steam. As you can see, the little Steam icon pops up here, so I am connected to Steam. So host, and my friend should join now. And then when they do join, we're going to go over to that little green square and then it'll start a race up on that platform. We'll go around it twice, and you'll see the UI in the top left update our time every millisecond, and our lap once we do a lap, and it's for 2 laps. And at the end, it'll show the place of who won. All right. It's pretty momentum based, so you can fly off the edges, and there's no code for handling that at the moment. That's something you can add in if you like, but it didn't seem absolutely necessary. Also, you can change the weight of the ball if you'd like, and the amount of force being applied if you'd like it to be a little bit snappier. You can also change the friction of what you're on to change how it feels controlling the pawn. All right, so you see in the top left, our time is about 40 seconds and we've completed our first lap. I don't have real-time updates of what your place is. That's a little harder than I wanted to go into in this particular tutorial. And there we go. I've finished. So you can see my place is still 0 because they haven't finished yet, so it hasn't tried to decide. And it still shows my time, so I can see how I did in the race, which is 61 seconds. All right, now that they've finished, we've both been returned to the lobby. You can see that my place is 1, and on their screen, it shows place 2. So that's what you get at the end of this tutorial series. Okay, so now that I've given the demonstration, I'm just going to really quick go over what I showed you. So I hosted a game, my friend joined the game, both went to the ready spot, we raced around twice, and then we were both returned to the lobby. And we could do it again if we both returned to the green spot. So in this video, we've just shown the demonstration. I'm going to be giving a foreword, and then afterwards, if you want, you can stay. I'll show you how to download Visual Studio, Unreal, and Git Bash and how to configure them. So this whole tutorial series, the first one's just going to be the demonstration, the foreword, and the project setup. The video after that is going to be creating our pawn and player controller. Second tutorial is going to be UI, multiplayer, and networking movement. And then the final one is going to be actually setting up the game so that we have the triggers and everything that makes it a race. I'm not an expert at C++. I have 6 months experience with Unreal and 2 years experience with C++. So if there's anything that seems strange, just leave me a comment and I'll maybe add something to the video or change the repository if it's necessary. What you saw was client authoritative. So whenever I moved my ball, I told the server the location that I'm at. Rather than telling the server that I'm moving, the server moves the ball and then it tells me where I'm at. So I'm the one with the last say of my location. That's really insecure, but good for couch gaming and if you want to have snappy physics and you don't want to have to go into a whole bunch of extra logic. Rocket League can do this because they have a really well-defined situation and they have a lot of money and they have good servers. But it gets really hard if you want to do that on your own as a single developer. Most of this tutorial is going to be in C++. That does not mean all of this tutorial is going to be in C++. There are certain things that just don't make any sense to work on in C++ in a beginner tutorial, like doing a UI entirely in C++ instead of leveraging the UMG and widgets. That just doesn't make any sense. Interacting with the Steam API for creating and joining sessions is also something much better left in blueprints, and that's what I did in this video. I'm working with Unreal Engine 4.21.2. I highly recommend working with this exact version so that you don't run into additional issues while trying to follow along or compile and run this code. I don't know if it will run in other versions, I haven't tried, but I might make a video in the future updating this project to a new version and show you how to do that process. Most of the code for this is on GitHub, and I highly encourage you to pull it down and check each step so that you can kind of follow around and play around with any of the things that you are interested in. These videos are not going to have any bells and whistles. These are just going to be me showing you what I've created and how to use it. My eventual goal with this is to make an adventure game, but I wanted something simple that I could really start to understand Unreal's concepts before I got too far and then had to update things because I changed my mind. All right, so now we're going to be going into the project setup. So first things first, we need to download the Epic launcher. So let me open Edge really quick. And download Epic. Go to their store. I'll have a link to their store in the description, as well as a link to Visual Studio and Git Bash. All right, download Epic Games Launcher. All right. Well, this will take a little while, and then you'll open it. I'm going to skip ahead. Okay, now that that's downloaded, we can open it. All right, and then you would just hit install and go with the basic settings. I've already done this, so I'm not going to do this again. All right, seeing as I already have Epic installed, I can now open it. Okay, now that Unreal is open, we can go to the Unreal Engine tab, and then we'll likely start out here, and we can go to the Library tab. Note this is not the same as the Library tab over here on the left that contains your games. It's under Unreal Engine and then Library. And you would click Add New Version, and then you click the drop down here and select 4.21.2, but I already have it so it doesn't show up in this menu. Then once that's selected, you would simply click Install, wait for that to finish, and you'll have the engine. Now that we have the engine, we need Visual Studio. So let's go to our browser here. Visual Studio 2017 Community Download. And I'll add a link to this. Open up 2017 here. Download. And you'll see here they have listed Explorer, Professional, and Community. We're going to go with Community. All right, now that's downloaded, let's open it. Yes. All right, this will look a little bit different for you and it will be asking you some more questions, but I'm going to hit Modify just so that I can show you the correct options to select. So you're going to want to make sure that you have this selected, Game Development with C++. This should be the only module you need. Then you also want to make sure you've clicked on this Unreal Engine installer, and that'll also highlight this 8.1. And then you would click Install down here and wait for that to finish. Once that's done, Unreal Engine should work with Visual Studio properly. All right, we will need to download Git Bash now so that you can pull the code and follow along. So let's open Edge. Then type Git Bash. This is just an add. Go to Git Downloads, Windows, and it should automatically start downloading the correct one. If it doesn't, you can click 64-bit here. Let's skip ahead. Okay, now that that's finished downloading, let's open it up. Yes. And then hit install. All right, let's skip ahead here. Okay, now that that's finished installing, we can launch Git Bash. And it should open up. So now I'm going to show you how to clone the repository and make sure everything's set up, and a couple of tips and tricks for building and refreshing Unreal. All right, now we will be downloading the code, building it, and make sure that it runs properly on your machine. I'm going to walk you through how to do that. First, we need to open Git Bash and go to Documents, Unreal Projects. Then we're going to type git clone, and I'm going to paste the link from the description, which says GitHub link. There can be an issue sometimes where you need to delete the space and the H here because there's a hidden character there. That's an issue with Git Bash, but you can remedy it pretty easily with that. Then I'll hit enter. This is going to take some time, so I'm going to skip ahead. Okay, now that that's downloaded, we'll need to generate some Visual Studio project files. So to do that, we'll need to navigate to the same directory, but in Windows, and right-click on this, and generate Visual Studio project files. Next, we'll simply click on it, and this should take a while to build. Yes. Now that's done, Unreal has opened up. You'll see we have this error down here and this error in the top left. In order to get rid of those, let's hit compile. And then let's hit build. This should take a moment. Now that that's done building, you'll see this little message. You don't really need to worry about this. This is just some performance things you could change. All right, so we can see our whole world if we right-click and look around. So you could get the full functioning game by going to File, Package Project, Windows, 64-bit, and it'll show up under Windows No Editor. But another way to get a quick run is to do Standalone Game. So let's hit that. Save selected. And you should see Steam in the bottom right. If you don't see Steam in the bottom right, that might be because your settings are misconfigured. So go to Advanced Settings, scroll down to the bottom, uncheck Use Single Process. Now, if this is Play as Listen Server or Play as Client, you won't see the Steam setting, even if Single Process is checked. So you need to uncheck it, modify this to Play Offline, and then hit Check. And that'll make sure that Steam shows up in the bottom right. One small other thing that might seem obvious, but has tripped me up a couple times, is you need to make sure that you're logged into Steam, otherwise it won't show up in the game. Now that that's done, we should be able to either hit play and play by ourselves on this main screen, or if we wanted to play with somebody else, we'd have to select Main Menu under Content Levels, and then hit play, and then click on Host that will show up in the top left, and then have our friends join, and then we can play together. But for now, let's just play as ourselves, and we're where we were at during the demo. So that's how to set up the project. One final thing, in case you were having issues despite having followed all these steps perfectly, is that you might have checked out another version and you still had some leftover binaries. So let's show how to clear those out. So you'd hit close both of these. Then you go to your project directory and go into binaries, select Windows 64, delete that, then go back to Ball Tutorial and right click and then do Generate Visual Studio Project Files. and then open up your project again. And that'll just make sure that there isn't anything that carried over from the prior version, and it'll have you rebuild. So the reason some of that stuff might still be an old version if you checked out the new version is that Git doesn't track those binaries because they're really large and they can be built from the C++ files. So that's just one extra little tip to make sure that everything is working exactly as it should. This is also how, if you delete a C++ file and you want it to no longer show up here, you follow that same process. With that, this concludes part 0. Please stay tuned for part 1.